A coach would have lots of problems to solve in their respective sports. A Sunday League football coach would have lots of problems with team selections, especially when you get into under 14 and onwards, because there are leagues and the children start to become more competitive and want to win. Also, in a team of 11, there would only be 3 subs, often around 3 subs, and the kids who aren't as good wouldn't get as much game time, causing them to get upset and despondent and not wanting to play as much anymore, and then causing them to argue with their parents, or parents to argue with the coaches. Also, in basketball, the coach will need to think about the opposition's strategy and best players. Therefore, they can block off their players and mark out their scoring players to stop them getting as many points and winning the game. In rugby, the coach might have to solve problems in team dynamics if there is one player on his own all the time, because the rest of the team lived in a similar area and are friends, and this player doesn't know any of them. Then the coach could try and integrate the player into the team by giving him a buddy to stay with, or making him the captain or one of the leaders, so he has to talk to the players. Another problem a coach might suffer could be technical or fitness deficiencies in the squad. A school netball coach might have this problem because if not all the players do extra netball outside of the school sessions, they might be unfit and not very technically good at the different types of passes and shots. To combat this, the coach could focus the sessions on working on the technical aspects of the players' games and asking them to keep their fitness up by doing some extra fitness work at home and practicing the skills that they have learnt. Furthermore, a coach of a hockey team might need to solve a problem to do with their strategy or tactics. For example, if they have planned to play a certain way against the team, but then the team changes formation to their usual one and picks a different formation, and then the original tactics wouldn't work against the team, so the coach will need a plan B of how to react to this and solve this problem. A coach of a T20 cricket team will need to teach players how to act in a pressure moment in a game. For example, the final over of a T20 game, where there's, say, 10 runs to win, would be very nervy, and the bowlers would have to hit their spot of a Yorker every bowl to stop the opposition getting the 10 runs they need. So the coach would need to teach them how to mentally prepare for that and how to stay calm and focused so that they can bowl their best into the right areas. A hockey coach might have a problem of not having enough hockey sticks in training, and therefore they might have to do drills where the hockey sticks can be rotated along the line, and in the game he could rotate players so that they get a rest, but everyone gets to take part even if they don't have a hockey stick. A gymnastic coach might not have a big enough mat for everyone to take part at the same time in, say, practicing a forward roll or a handstand. Therefore they could get some of the other gymnasts to go and do some other work, like some strength work, maybe doing the plank for a minute to practice their core strength, or going on other equipment that might be available, like the pommel horse or something like that. A lacrosse team might have a couple of players who can't make it to a game because their parents can't take them because they're away or something. Therefore, the coach could message all the parents and ask if anyone can give them a lift and take them to the game so that they don't miss out on being at the match. A coach will need to organise the equipment, the playing area and the players before the session. During the session, he will need to organise the players into where he wants them to be and what drills and stuff he wants them to be doing. And after a session, he will need to organise all the equipment back into the bags it goes in, or into his car, for example, and organise that the players get home safely. It is important that coach organises everything ready for their session a few days before, so they know what they need to do in the session and if they need to work out any problems. Something might happen in the session which means the coach has to change plan, like if the players don't understand the drill, or if there's not the equipment that they expected, or the facility that they were meant to have wasn't available, so they had to go to somewhere smaller. Then the coach should be organised and prepared for something like that happening. A tennis coach would need to make sure that he has working tennis rackets and lots of tennis balls, so that the player doesn't waste any coaching time by having to constantly go and collect the balls so they can hit them. A swimming coach would need a big enough swimming pool so that the swimmers have enough space to do their lengths, and there needs to be ropes separating the lanes so that the swimmers don't swim into each other. A rugby coach would need to organise players into groups determined by age and size so that the players don't hurt each other, because if they're a mismatch in size, then there could be a serious injury to one of the players. The coach might also divide players into groups, whether they are forwards or back, so that they can work on specific drills in their positions. Furthermore, a football coach should organise to start with a basic drill and then slowly move into a more complicated and harder drills. But the coach should react to how hard the players find the drills. And if they are struggling with the drills, then the coach should be organised to know how he can step down the drills level and make it more simple, or change drill to something that they get and can learn from. Because if it's too complicated, then they'll become bored and despondent. Furthermore, a cricket coach would need to be in communication with the other team's coach, and they should also make sure that there is a pitch available for the game with wickets and a boundary, and that the other team is there on time and they know the rules they're playing, and that there is a scorer there to keep score. A netball coach will need to write up a session plan for training a few days before, so they know the drills they're going to do, and that the players aren't standing around doing nothing in the session and getting bored. The netball coach needs to plan a warm-up, drills, and a game situation. A coach should also make sure he's got his legal documentation with them, so that when they're coaching, if someone came up to them, they can show them their qualifications and their DBS safety checks, which means that they can work with children. And after a session, the netball coach should write a logbook and note down what drills were well received and what drills the players didn't understand and need to either be re-explained or not used again because they're just too hard, until maybe in a few months they get to a better level and then they can use that drill. A football coach would need to organise the money to pay for the pitch and to pay the referee for the match. Players can be put into groups based on size, friendships, and also randomly. You can put them into groups by making them stand behind columns, by giving them different coloured bibs and giving them team names like England, France, Spain. The potential issues you could have organising groups is if you have an odd number, no bibs, or if players want to constantly be with their friends and don't want to get mixed up. Then they will not get to know their other teammates. The potential issues in organising equipment is that there might not be enough equipment. Some of the equipment could be broken and have sharp bits on it, or it's hard to get to the training session because there's no one to take it, or there's too much of it. A hockey coach would be able to get his players' attention by shouting, so that the players will look to the coach and listen to what he is saying. Coach could also use a whistle to get players in quickly to him, so they can get their attention and sit any players out who aren't listening and paying attention to the hockey coaches, to set an example to the rest of the players that they need to listen to the coaches, otherwise they won't play. Communication might be hard for a coach. If some of the players aren't English speakers, then they wouldn't understand what the coach is telling them. Another problem could be if some of the players are messing around and being too loud, then no one will hear what the coaches are saying and they will constantly have to repeat themselves. Or if a rugby coach is using too much technical language, then some of the inexperienced players won't understand it and will become confused and bored. The communication types a coach could use is non-verbal, so a netball coach can keep her players positive by constantly smiling and keeping an upbeat face and having positive body language, like not shrugging their shoulders if the players do something wrong, so that otherwise the players will get upset and won't want to play anymore. A football coach can demonstrate to players what he wants them to do by doing gestures from the side of the pitch. So he could point to a player where he wants them to go, or where he wants them to take up their main position, or he can use hand gestures to get them more energised by like shaking his hands, like pointing, just getting them going. A rugby coach can use proximity to communicate with his players. By being close to the players, they can see easily what he wants them to do if he needs to demonstrate or talk to them. And if he's watching really closely, they can tell he wants to focus on the details, and then the players will really concentrate so they get the drill right and show him what they can do. A rugby coach can also use touch to move players into the position he wants. Especially in a ruck or scrum, young players often get into the wrong body positions where they could possibly hurt themselves, or they're not able to win the ruck or win the scrum. So therefore the rugby coach can move their bodies into the right position so they're into a better position to do the scrum. A cricket coach can communicate to his players by dressing smartly and being respectful and polite to the umpires and other coaches. This will tell the players that they also need to act respectfully to the opposition, the umpires and the other coaches. A coach can communicate that he's happy with what the players are doing, and that they should carry on. And also they will realise that he's watching intently and will keep the intensity up if he is silent. So for example, a tennis coach might do 20 serves, and if they're silent and don't say anything, then the player will think they're doing something right, because otherwise the coach would be intervening and giving them points. It also means that the coach at the end of the drill can sum it up what they did well, rather than constantly butting in and letting the player develop by learning from hitting shots and playing. The verbal ways a coach can communicate is through speaking or listening to the players, and either writing messages to the players about what they need to work on in games, or read what fans or players are saying about their coaching style. So often a football coach might take a player to the side and speak to them about their game and talk to them about what they did well and wrong, or he might at the end of the game sit the players down. I had this in my Sunday league team. After a game, our coach would sit us down and say, what do you think you did well? And players would put their hands up and give points. And what do you think you did badly or could improve on? And players would sit down and give their points. So my football coach would listen to us, and then that would help him work out what we need to work on. Or he could maybe send an email to all the parents telling them what they did well, what they need to do better with, or what they want their kids to work on in the week. Maybe fitness, for example. He could email the parents and say he wants some children to improve their fitness, or maybe just kick a ball against the wall to work on their touch. If they're over 16, then the coach would be able to send this message out on a WhatsApp group or an email to the players specifically. Volleyball players will need to communicate with each other to decide who goes where and who hits the ball and who goes for the ball. Hockey coaches will need to communicate with each other about ideas they have, and if one coach sees a problem with training or in a game, then they should discuss it with the other coaches and decide what to do. Football linesmen and referees will need to discuss decisions with each other. If the referee didn't see a foul, but the linesman did, then he needs to tell him so that the referee can give the foul or the penalty. Coaches and parents need to communicate so that the parents understand the coach's values and understand what they're trying to do, and don't just criticise them from the sideline. So a rugby coach might have a certain philosophy, like he likes to get the ball out wide and spread the play, but some of the coaches might not understand what he's trying to do. But if he gives them his values, then they won't start just criticising him and wait for the process and let him do what he wants. A professional tennis coach should communicate to the media so they don't question the way he's been coaching his tennis player, and they'll understand more what he did with training or the tactics. If they're constantly hitting drop shots, then he'll be able to explain why. Lindsay, this was my slide for some of the communication. I'm not sure if it got in, but this was the slide.